Hi there, I'm going to do a review for Howard the Duck. This movie came out in 1986 and it stars Leah Thompson and an assortment of people play Howard the Duck. Movie is sort of a. Howard the Duck is basically a member of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, although this movie has no attachment to that universe at all. It's basically just a standalone that I believe was produced by more or less was it? I forget who produced this. It was actually I think it was in production by what was it? George Lucas. I think he brought it in. Nonetheless, the whole point of this movie is that it's in joke of Howard the Duck is that everything in their world is like Howard is like Duck World. And the whole point of the movie is that Howard is sitting comfortably. He's just finished a day of work and he gets zapped all the way across the universe, parallel dimension apparently, to Earth and falls down in a back alley in a trash can. And it's all good because while this is all happening, somebody else is having a different track on life. Somebody named Beverly Switzler is busy having a night with her band playing in what looks like a fairly sketchy area of what apparently is Cleveland. And yeah, she sort of discovers Howard. And of course, this is not really the kind of first moment you would expect to have between an alien duck and a human. So, but nonetheless, I don't think there's much to take serious here, given the fact that when he first drops down and she first meets him, it's like, hey, how are you? like, like this is something that normally happens in her life. I guess her life has been so crazy. I guess the joke is she's crazy enough, or the places she's been is crazy enough that she doesn't really think too much about meeting a humanoid duck. I think at first though she thought that he was more or less dressed in a costume. This of course was mid '80s, so this is the kind of like the '80s is kind of like that zone of time for people in general because the United States was experiencing a cultural trend zone. I don't know. I think it must have been in a response to being under Ronald Reagan was that the '80s was all about jarishness, big hair, big makeup. It was like one could argue it was it was that early modern decade, but nonetheless, Howard the Duck. Yeah, cinematic universe connections, yes, but in this movie they don't bring any of that up. It's just a movie about Howard the Duck. All you really know about him, he smokes cigars, and he talks in kind of a shrill sense of humor way. It's actually kind of a funny movie. It's actually amusing to watch it because they just play with the idea that it's so silly that no other characters, like of course other people are like, oh my god, it's a duck. It's a walking, talking duck. It's an alien life form. It's an evolution of ducks. And of course Howard like not really having this because he wants to get back home. Meanwhile, for Beverly, this is kind of like a unique thing because for her, this doesn't just happen very often. But nonetheless, it's kind of an amusing movie. Um, yeah, Duck World. He comes from Duck World, and Duck World's kind of like a version of our world. One could argue there probably is a Cleveland and Duck World, but we really don't know. They don't get too much into that in the movie. They don't really talk about it. Nonetheless, this movie is wacky in the basic sense of the term. Because, of course, Beverly lets Howard stay in her loft, which I guess you could call it an apartment suite. I'm not sure what you would call it. It's kind of a gruff thing. It's kind of an amusing place. But nonetheless, this is Duck World. And it's an amusing place. Duck World is funny and silly, and this is pretty much what happens when you have a movie like this. They don't take themselves too seriously, which is a really, really good thing. Although the scientists sort of play it serious because they're like, oh yeah, this is Duck World. Eventually, despite all the gander, the problems that Howard comes across is that he ends up having to look for a job and stuff, which is so hilarious to be in a world and have to look for a job right away. He of course isn't afraid to look for a job. Everybody just kind of hires him on the case. It's so amusing to watch this because nobody questions the fact that he's a duck for some reason. I'm not sure. I guess it's because most of the bosses are so used to weird characters in their cities now that they don't really care too much that there's a walking, talking duck around. Nonetheless, it's a curious show. Again, that it's not. I'm not sure this is what you'd call a kids movie, but I guess kids can watch it. I guess kids in the '80s might have watched it. It's so silly. It's basically it's compounding. I guess what the whole joke was is that the scientific community in this area was doing a test, and of course their experiment went a little bit off. So instead of bringing over the usual things and the usual people, they inadvertently brought both Howard and a monster from the other end of the universe down to Earth. And this comes up. But nonetheless, while this is being talked about, um, they can't really. I'm not sure. The movie is having troubles with itself throughout because, of course, you got this walking, talking duck, and nobody, and some people are actually freaked out by it, like they should be, and other people are just kind of like, whatever, who cares? He's a duck. It's all good. We're not going to worry too much about the fact that this is happening because, of course, this is a movie that's an in joke of itself. Nonetheless, of course, uh, Beverly sort of develops a relationship with the duck and sort of a friendship of sorts, even though it's a little bit too in your face with that. They do have a night. Of course, they have that moment where Howard has to be shown doing stuff with Beverly, and I'm not sure if this works properly for that setting. Nonetheless, there's a little bit of a kiss there before it's rudely interrupted, of course, by the scientists who come and find her place. I'm not sure how they knew where she lived. They figured out where she lived. Well, yeah, I guess it was because the one guy actually knew her. Because she does have scientist friend, played by Tim Robbins, who's like all enamored by the duck because it's like, oh my god, it's a scientific experiment, it's an alien. And of course, he tells everybody where these two live. And that's the funny thing about it is that I don't know. This movie wisely does not take itself all that serious. It's a duck and a woman, and I mean, if you take it any more serious than that, it's hard to deal with because it's the joke of how do you take Howard the Duck any more serious than you're already taking it. There's not much more serious you can take Howard the Duck. They play it straight. They play it fairly straight enough, though, as it is for what it is. This, of course, right after Leah Thompson was in Back to the Future, so of course she's had two successive. Then a second movie where she's doing some awkward, intimate scenes with somebody. But yeah, this movie was not too bad. I don't know. It was interesting enough. It's fun. At one point, I think that's a joke. At the end of the movie, of course, Howard ends up not going back to the home planet. They end up having to deal with the alien form that came down with him, or came across the universe with him, because they had to deal with that problem. Not really too serious at the end though with that, because basically I had to find out um, why exactly Howard was why this is so bad. Nonetheless, the alien life form, I'm not sure exactly what they called them, but apparently they're powerful enough to cause some significant damage on humanity's life, but I can't imagine how. I mean, they don't appear to be much to them. And considering the fact they were defeated by a common bunch of people, I'm not sure they'd be much of a threat to actual humanity. But nonetheless, they came across the cosmos, and they could be a problem. Nonetheless, yeah, Howard the Duck plays with this narrative quite well. Deals with it, doesn't get too much enamored of the idea that this is a walking, talking duck. Nonetheless, pretty funny movie. I mean, these days I don't really worry about too much about its comedy because it's so silly. It knows exactly what kind of silly it is. It does, of course, feature some rather awkward stuff, but I don't know. It's good enough. Probably better received now than it was back then, simply because of the fact that time has passed and more aloof stuff has actually happened in our world. So it's not being taken too radically. Plus, I think some of the people who saw it when they were kids are now, growing up with it and think of it as kind of like a cult classic. It's not treated in the same vein as other movies from its time period, but nonetheless, it works and it plays with its narrative pretty well. But yeah, Howard the Duck. Yep. It. Yeah, the thing about Beverly is that she's a punk rocker basically, so I guess that's the reason why she doesn't worry too much about Howard the Duck. She plays for the Cherry Blossoms or something like that, and nonetheless, yeah, it works out pretty good. But yeah, there's Howard the Duck.